We've talked about Portrait enough now to realize that Joyce leaves nothing to chance. It shouldn't surprise us, then, to learn that the basic structure of the book is not just a mechanism for conveying its contents, but is instead integrally connected to its thematics. Joyce scholars call the structure of Portrait Daedalian, derived from the name of the fabulous artificer who built the labyrinth on Crete to cage the Minotaur, and who escaped on wings made of wax along with his son Icarus. Daedalian, in the case of Portrait, means a pattern of rising and crashing that we can see most clearly at the ends and beginnings of chapters. If you don't recall the story of Daedalus and his son, the inventor warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun, as the heat would melt the wax wings. Icarus was so thrilled with the joy of flight and escape that he forgot his father's warning, melted his wings, and crashed into the sea to his death. So recall the end of chapter 1. Stephen has been punished unjustly and has gone to the rector to complain, like the heroes in the histories. Father Conmee has heard his complaint and promised to set Father Dolan straight. Stephen's friends give him 3 cheers and lift him to their shoulders. It's an obvious moment of triumph. Now go to the beginning of chapter 2. Stephen is out of school because his father has lost all their money. He is aimlessly wandering around the city with his uncle, who steals apples under the guise of caring for Stephen's bowels. Stephen's father runs into Father Conmee, now at Belvedere, and talks him into taking Stephen and his brother as scholarship students. He comes home to tell the story of how the priests all laughed at Stephen's demand that Father Dolan leave him alone. Stephen's big triumph is revealed here as a humiliation. He thought he was flying high, but really he was just melting his wings, preparing to crash into the sea. At the end of chapter 2, Stephen has his first sexual experience with a prostitute. He had thought that having sex would fix all his problems, make him a man of the world, no longer afraid and powerless. And sure enough, at the end of the chapter, we get incredibly luxurious language as he allows his body to feel the sensual pleasures of sex. At the beginning of chapter 3, Stephen is thinking about food. It's not pretty or elegant or charming. He is hungry, like an animal, and he hopes there would be stew for dinner, turnips and carrots and bruised potatoes and fat mutton pieces to be ladled out in thick, peppered, flour-fattened sauce. "Stuff it into you," his belly counseled him. The product of feeding the body's sensual pleasures has been to turn Stephen into all sensual pleasure. He can't think about school anymore because he is thinking about the body. At the end of chapter 3, we have another moment of transcendent joy as Stephen confesses his sins. At last, the ciborium had come to him as he takes communion in church. But at the beginning of chapter 4, the religious peace and joy he had felt on the previous page have been turned into rituals prescribed by rule. It's empty religious posturing and ultimately useless to him because the rituals don't prevent him from feeling short-tempered. He hasn't become more holy, just more ritualistic. At the end of chapter 4, another high moment as Stephen sees the bird girl. Combining his aesthetic notions with motifs from his religious life, the bird girl represents for Stephen a muse or a new Virgin Mary who will support him in his artistic endeavors. The world is his oyster. At the beginning of chapter 5, Stephen is not the kind of artist who creates anything, but the kind of artist who talks about what he's going to create and what his principles are. He can talk the ear off the Dean of Studies as he lights the fire, the most sophisticated aesthetic theories a 1902 college student could utter. But he isn't doing anything with his life. In fact, he slept through the first half of the school day. At the end of chapter 5, Stephen is leaving for France to become a real artist at last. What do you think will happen to him? We see him again at the beginning of Joyce's next novel, Ulysses. What do you think he is doing?